Sometimes we fall in love before we even realize it. It happens fast, too fast. And when it does, it leaves us feeling exposed, vulnerable, maybe even confused. We question ourselves, why me? Why so easy? But here's the truth. Falling quickly doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. The challenge isn't in falling. The challenge is in standing back up, in understanding your heart without letting it control you, and in learning that love, real love, is not about speed. It's about depth. Tonight, we're going to explore how to navigate those feelings, how to reclaim your power, and how to turn a heart that falls easily into a heart that loves wisely, because the way you handle love, that's what defines your strength. Falling in love is something that happens quietly, often without permission, and sometimes when you least expect it. One moment, you're just living your life, walking your path, focusing on your own world, and then suddenly someone enters it, not with a bang, but with a subtle force that changes everything. You notice the way they move, the way they speak, the way they carry themselves. There's a certain gravity that pulls you in, almost like the universe itself is nudging you closer. And then, before you even realize it, your mind starts replaying every word, every smile, every gesture. You catch yourself smiling at memories of them that only exist in your head, and you begin to feel things that you thought were reserved for the movies or the stories you read late at night. You start noticing little things, how the sunlight hits their hair, the sound of their laughter, the way they pause when they're thinking. You think, it's nothing. It's just a passing thought. But it doesn't pass. It lingers. It lingers in your mind, in your chest, in the way your body reacts to even the smallest interaction with them. And as it lingers, something begins to shift inside you. It's not just admiration anymore. It's not just liking or curiosity. It's something heavier, something deeper, something that carries both the thrill of excitement and the fear of vulnerability. You realize that falling in love so easily is not about weakness. It's about openness, about allowing yourself to experience something profoundly human. But with that openness comes a complexity that can't be ignored. You start questioning yourself, why is it so easy for me to fall? Is it because I trust too quickly? Is it because I give too much of myself before understanding theirs? Or is it because my heart has been searching for something it didn't even know existed until now? You remember moments from your past, times when love wasn't so gentle, times when it demanded more than you were ready to give. And you wonder if this is different, if this time the ease of falling means it's real, or if it's just another fleeting chapter. And in that questioning, there's growth. You begin to realize that the ease with which you fall is not a flaw, it's a reflection of your courage. It's a willingness to vulnerable in a world that often punishes it. You are not reckless, you are brave. You are brave enough to allow your heart to open, to embrace the uncertainty that love always brings, to confront the possibility of joy and heartbreak in equal measure. There's a strange beauty in falling so easily. It teaches you to live more fully in the present, because when your heart is captivated, every moment with that person feels larger than life. Ordinary things become extraordinary. A shared glance, a casual conversation, a quiet moment in silence. Your perception of time shifts. You begin to cherish moments that once seemed insignificant. You notice the subtle ways people reveal themselves, the unspoken truths, the gentle honesty in their actions. And as you navigate this experience, you discover something essential about yourself, that love in its purest form is not about control. It is not about calculating how much to give, how much to hold back. Love is about immersion, about being fully present even when the outcome is uncertain. And when you fall easily, you are immersing yourself in life in a way that few people dare to do. You're allowing yourself to feel deeply, to connect authentically, to experience the profound interplay between joy and fear, hope and doubt, exhilaration and hesitation. You begin to understand that ease of falling does not negate discernment. You can still observe, reflect, and protect yourself, but you do so from a place of awareness, not avoidance. You are learning to balance the intensity of emotion with the clarity of thought. You recognize that being captivated quickly is not about naivety. It's about receptivity, about being attuned to what moves your soul. And as you explore these feelings, you begin to see the patterns in your own heart. You notice how your mind and body respond, how your energy shifts, how your priorities subtly rearrange themselves around the presence of this person. You observe the interplay, desire and caution, attraction and reason, and you start to appreciate the complexity of human emotion in a that only firsthand experience can teach. There's an inherent lesson in falling so easily. It is a reminder of your own humanity. It is a call to embrace vulnerability as a strength rather than a weakness. It is an invitation to trust the rhythms of your own heart, to honor the depth of your emotional responses, and to approach relationships with a balance of openness and integrity. And through this process, you begin to cultivate patience, not necessarily with the other person, but with yourself. You understand that love cannot be rushed, even when it feels instantaneous, even when it ignites like a firestorm. It requires time, attention, and care to flourish and sustain. You start to pay attention to how you communicate, how you express affection, how you navigate boundaries. You recognize that the intensity of feeling must be harmonized with wisdom, and in that harmony there is a form of empowerment that is rare and profound. You also begin to appreciate the unpredictability of human connection. You see that falling in love so easily is not a linear experience. It comes with contradictions, with moments of exhilaration and moments of doubt, with clarity and confusion intertwined, and in embracing those contradictions, you find resilience. You discover that your heart is capable of absorbing joy without being overwhelmed, capable of enduring uncertainty without losing itself, capable of opening again and again without becoming hardened or jaded. And perhaps most importantly, you start to understand that love is a mirror. When you fall easily, it reflects not only the qualities of the person who captivates you, but also the qualities within yourself, your openness, your empathy, your capacity for connection, your courage to feel fully and deeply. You recognize that this experience is not solely about another person. It is about self-discovery, about learning who you are when confronted with the intensity of genuine affection. And through that reflection, you begin to appreciate that falling in love quickly does not diminish the authenticity of your feelings. It enhances them, revealing the raw, unfiltered capacity of your heart to respond to beauty, to kindness, to resonance. It teaches you that love is not a transaction, not a calculation, not a measure of strategy, but an expression of life itself. You start to see that every glance, every interaction, every shared silence carries significance, not because you orchestrate it, but because you honor it. And in honoring it, you cultivate a presence that is rare and transformative. You begin to understand that love, especially when it comes easily, is not something to be feared or controlled. It is a force to be experienced, respected, and celebrated. It invites you to explore the depths of your own emotional landscape, to confront your fears, to embrace your desires, to expand your capacity for compassion and connection. And as you navigate this journey, you realize that ease of falling is not a liability. It is a gift. It is a testament to the openness of your spirit, to the courage of your heart, to the willingness to engage with life in its most profound and unpredictable ways. And so, even as questions arise, even as doubts emerge, even as uncertainty lingers, you hold on to the understanding that the way you love is inherently valuable, inherently human, inherently real. Falling quickly in love is a phenomenon that often surprises us, yet it is deeply human. It is a reminder that life doesn't always follow the paths we map out in our minds, that our hearts have their own intelligence, and that connection often transcends logic or reason. When you feel yourself drawn to someone almost immediately, there's a sense of urgency in your emotions, a quiet insistence that cannot be ignored. You notice the way your thoughts keep returning to them, how the sound of their voice echoes in your mind long after the conversation ends, how your body seems to respond before your mind even catches up. It is a strange and beautiful dissonance, a tension between exhilaration and fear, desire and restraint, hope and caution. The heart, in these moments, operates almost independently, charting its own course, following invisible currents that lead you toward discovery and revelation. You begin to understand that when love comes easily, it is not simply an emotional reaction, it is a signal, a mirror reflecting something essential about yourself. You are being asked to confront not only the presence of another person, but also your own willingness to embrace vulnerability, to trust your instincts, and to surrender in a measured way to the currents of life. And in surrendering, you begin to notice the nuances that define meaningful connection. You observe the subtle ways that people reveal themselves over time, the gestures, the pauses, the unspoken signals that carry as much weight as the words spoken aloud. You see that the depth of attraction is not just about charm or appearance, but about resonance, about a subtle alignment of energy and intention that draws two beings together. As this understanding unfolds, you realize that falling quickly is not a flaw. It is an expression of authenticity. It demonstrates that your heart is unguarded, capable of perceiving and responding to beauty and kindness with immediacy. It is not recklessness, but rather a courageous act of openness. And yet, this openness requires careful attention. You recognize that when feelings arise so swiftly, the potential for confusion or misinterpretation increases. Your mind races to rationalize, to measure, to categorize these emotions, and yet no amount of reasoning can fully contain the complexity of genuine human experience. You begin to notice patterns within yourself, moments when your emotions override logic, times when your imagination paints possibilities before reality has even spoken. And rather than judging these tendencies, you start to see them as part of your humanity, as evidence of your capacity for empathy, sensitivity, and profound emotional engagement. There is a transformative lesson in this. To fall easily is to confront the fragility and strength of the human heart simultaneously. You feel the exhilaration of connection, the thrill of discovery, the intoxication of possibility, and alongside that, you encounter fear, hesitation, and the awareness that vulnerability carries risk. You realize that these dualities are not contradictions, they are essential components of the journey, inseparable from the richness of authentic emotional life. And as you navigate this journey, you begin to cultivate a deeper sense of self-awareness. You ask yourself, what does this attraction reveal about me? What patterns am I repeating? What does my response to another person teach me about my own needs, values, and boundaries? You come to understand that falling quickly can illuminate truths that may have remained hidden otherwise. You notice the way your body reacts to intimacy, the way your mind clings to thoughts of someone who inspires it, the way your heart can be both exhilarated and cautious at the same time. You learn that the intensity of your feelings is not a liability, but a form of data, a language that communicates the priorities and sensitivities of your inner world. And as you continue to explore this emotional landscape, you begin to recognize the importance of balance. Ease of falling must be tempered with reflection, attentiveness, and care. You understand that connection is not just about the initial spark. It is about how that spark evolves, how it is nurtured, how it grows into something sustainable and meaningful. You learn to observe without overwhelming, to engage without losing yourself, to honor both the intensity of feeling and the clarity of thought. There is also a profound lesson in patience. When love comes easily, there is often a temptation to rush, to act impulsively, to assume that the depth of feeling must immediately correspond to the depth of reality. And yet, true connection requires time. It requires witnessing another person in their fullness, appreciating their rhythms, understanding their history, and navigating the spaces between moments of closeness and distance. You begin to understand that falling quickly is not the endpoint. It is the beginning of a more intricate dance, one that requires listening, adaptability, and empathy. You become attuned to the subtle cues of mutual interest, the ways in which energy aligns or diverges, the delicate interplay between desire and respect, intimacy and autonomy. You notice how small gestures of thoughtfulness, kindness, and consistency create a foundation for trust, and you understand that trust cannot be hurried. And as you immerse yourself in this process, you realize that falling quickly is also an invitation to embrace uncertainty with grace. Life and love are inherently unpredictable. Emotions are volatile. People are complex. By allowing yourself to feel deeply, even when the future is unknown, you cultivate resilience. You learn that it is possible to experience profound joy while holding space for doubt, to celebrate connection while acknowledging its fragility, to love without clinging, to hope without expectation. This resilience becomes a source of empowerment. You recognize that your heart's capacity for rapid attachment is not something to be suppressed or feared. It is a reflection of your vitality, your curiosity, your willingness to engage with life fully. You begin to see that ease of falling is an expression of presence, of being fully awake to the moment, of perceiving the world and the people in it with an intensity that others may rarely experience. And through this presence, you cultivate empathy. You understand that the person who captures your attention is also navigating their own complexities, their own vulnerabilities, their own patterns of attraction and fear. You become more attuned to their needs, their rhythms, the IR boundaries. And in doing so, you deepen your capacity for compassion and connection. You recognize that true intimacy is not about the speed of falling, but about the depth of understanding, the willingness to witness another person fully, and the courage to maintain your authenticity in the face of uncertainty. And as you explore these dynamics, you begin to appreciate the beauty of imperfection. Falling quickly may involve missteps, misunderstandings, or moments of awkwardness, yet each of these experiences offers insight, growth, and perspective. You learn that the path of love is rarely linear, that clarity often emerges through trial and reflection, and that patience with yourself and others is an essential component of meaningful connection. Moreover, you start to see the subtle power of self-reflection. By observing your emotional responses without judgment, by considering the motives and patterns that shape your reactions, you gain insight into your own psyche. You become more conscious of your desires, your fears, your expectations, and your strengths. You develop the ability to navigate love with both heart and mind, with both vulnerability and discernment. And perhaps most importantly, you come to understand that falling quickly is not a measure of recklessness, but a testament to courage. It demonstrates a willingness to engage with life fully, to experience the intensity of connection without retreating prematurely, to trust that the human heart is capable of both joy and endurance. You realize that the ease with which you form attachments is a reflection of your authenticity, your openness, and your readiness to experience life in its most profound dimensio. NS. You see that love, in this context, is not something to be controlled or tamed. It is a dynamic, living force that teaches you about yourself and the world, that challenges you to grow, that invites you to expand your capacity for empathy, presence, and understanding. And through this expansion, you cultivate a sense of freedom, the freedom to feel deeply without fear, the freedom to connect without losing yourself, the freedom to navigate intimacy with both curiosity and integrity. You understand that falling quickly is not about the other person alone. It is about your own willingness to inhabit life fully, to honor your emotions, to trust your intuition, to embrace uncertainty with courage, and to engage with others authentically and responsibly. The way we love is often a mirror of who we are, and when love comes easily, it has a unique way of revealing our inner landscape. Falling quickly is not simply an emotional reaction. It is a lens, a prism through which we begin to see both ourselves and the world with heightened clarity. You start noticing how your heart responds to beauty, kindness, vulnerability, and authenticity, and in that noticing, you discover truths about your own capacity for connection, for empathy, and for courage. It is a reminder that love is not a formula, not a step-by-step plan, not a predictable series of outcomes. It is an experience, a journey, a living force that demands presence, reflection, and engagement. When you fall easily, you are confronted with the paradox of intensity and patience. You feel the rush of desire, the thrill of closeness, the intoxication of possibility. Yet alongside these sensations, there is an awareness that genuine connection takes time, that intimacy is cultivated through attention, trust, and consistency. And in balancing these opposing forces, excitement and restraint, you begin to understand the rhythm of meaningful relationships. You observe that falling quickly is not about speed alone. It is about receptivity, about the ability to perceive the subtle nuances of another person, to respond authentically, and to honor the depth of your own feelings without being consumed by them. It teaches you about alignment, how your values, priorities, and emotional needs intersect with those of the other person, and how the interplay of these elements shapes the quality of connection. You start to notice patterns in your own behavior, how you approach intimacy, how you express affection, how you navigate vulnerability. These insights are not judgments, they are opportunities for growth. They show you where your strengths lie, where you may need caution, and how you can engage with love in a way that is both profound and sustainable. And as you continue to explore these patterns, you begin to appreciate the courage inherent in falling easily. It takes bravery to open your heart quickly, to trust the signals of attraction, to allow yourself to feel deeply even when uncertainty looms. This courage is not reckless, it is deliberate, a conscious choice to engage fully with life rather than retreat into safety or predictability. You begin to understand that vulnerability is not a weakness, it is a form of strength. It allows you to experience the richness of human emotion, to connect authentically, and to cultivate empathy in ways that are impossible when the heart remains closed. And with this realization comes the importance of self-awareness. Falling easily invites you to reflect not only on your feelings toward another person, but also on your own motivations, expectations, and emotional triggers. You become attuned to the ways in which past experiences shape your present reactions, how your desires and fears influence your behavior, and how you can navigate these dynamics with clarity and intentionality. You see that love is both a teacher and a mirror. It reflects back to you the qualities you value, the wounds you carry, the strengths you may not have fully recognized. And in embracing these reflections, you cultivate humility, resilience, and insight. You recognize that falling quickly does not diminish the authenticity of your feelings, rather it amplifies them, demanding attention, respect, and conscious engagement. You notice how the intensity of attraction can inspire creativity, reflection, and growth. Thoughts that once felt abstract become tangible, feelings that were previously dormant awaken, and your perception of the world deepens. Ordinary moments, shared laughter, a quiet conversation, a fleeting glance take on extraordinary significance. You learn to honor these moments without becoming dependent on them, to appreciate the connection without allowing it to define your sense of self, and in doing so, you cultivate balance, the ability to feel fully while remaining grounded, to love passionately while maintaining clarity, to be open without losing yourself. This balance is not innate, it is cultivated through observation, reflection, and practice. It is the result of paying attention to both heart and mind, to the impulses of desire and the insights of reason, to the rhythms of emotion and the steadying presence of awareness. You also begin to understand the impermanence and unpredictability of human connection. Even when feelings arrive with intensity and immediacy, there is no guarantee of outcome. Love, in its truest form, is not about possession, control, or certainty. It is about engagement, presence, and responsiveness. Falling easily reminds you that attachment is not the same as ownership, that desire is not the same as necessity, that connection is a shared experience rather than a unilateral claim. And as this understanding deepens, you cultivate discernment. You learn to recognize when attraction aligns with deeper values, when connection offers growth rather than dependence, when engagement fosters mutual respect rather than imbalance. You develop the ability to navigate intimacy with both sensitivity and strength, to honor your feelings while honoring boundaries, to embrace depth without losing perspective. There is also a lesson in patience. Falling quickly can create a sense of urgency, a desire to accelerate connection, to bridge distance, to solidify attachment. Yet genuine intimacy cannot be rushed. It emerges over time through observation, shared experience, vulnerability, and trust. By allowing the process to unfold naturally, you create space for authenticity, reflection, and mutual growth. And in this patience, you discover resilience. You learn that it is possible to experience deep attachment without being consumed by it, to feel intensely without losing equilibrium, to navigate uncertainty without fear. You recognize that falling easily is not a liability, but a testament to the capacity of your heart to engage fully with life, to experience connection deeply, and to embrace the beauty and complexity of human emotion. You also notice the interplay between desire and wisdom. While your heart may respond immediately, your mind provides perspective. You observe the alignment of intentions, the coherence of actions, and the authenticity of presence. You learn to integrate feeling with thought, passion with discernment, and spontaneity with reflection. And through this integration, you cultivate maturity and love, a maturity that allows you to experience intensity without being overwhelmed, to engage fully without losing yourself, to love freely without expectation. Furthermore, you come to understand that love is expansive. When you fall easily, it is not a sign of limitation, but of openness. You are attuned to the subtle cues of connection, sensitive to the nuances of emotion, receptive to the beauty of shared presence. This expansiveness fosters empathy, understanding, and compassion. You are not only aware of your own experience, but also of the inner world of the person you are drawn to. And in recognizing this shared humanity, you deepen your capacity for meaningful engagement, creating space for mutual growth, respect, and transformation. You learn that the intensity of feeling is not a threat. It is an opportunity to explore, to reflect, to connect, to grow, and to discover dimensions of your own heart that may have remained hidden. You recognize that falling easily illuminates the richness of your inner landscape, the depth of your emotional intelligence, and the courage inherent in openness. And ultimately, you come to see that the ease with which you fall is not something to be controlled or denied, but something to honor. It is a reflection of your vitality, your capacity for engagement, your readiness to embrace the unpredictability of life, and your willingness to experience both joy and uncertainty with grace. You understand that love, in its truest expression, is not measured by speed, but by presence, authenticity, and responsiveness. Falling quickly is a gift. It is a lens, a teacher, a mirror, a force that challenges you to expand, reflect, and grow. And in embracing it fully, you cultivate the courage, insight, and resilience necessary to navigate not only the complexities of love, but also the broader landscape of human connection, intimacy, and personal growth. True strength in love is not measured by how quickly your heart falls or how intensely you feel, but by the way you hold yourself through the experience, the way you navigate vulnerability while maintaining integrity, and the way you embrace connection without losing sight of who you are. Falling in love easily is a gift, yes, but it also demands responsibility, awareness, and courage. The challenge is not to resist the pull, but to understand it, to observe it, and to act with intention, knowing that your heart's responses are both powerful and instructive. You begin to notice how your feelings shape your actions, how your emotions color your perception, and how every interaction, every glance, every word carries weight in the subtle architecture of human connection. In this awareness, you discover that love is not about control, ownership, or predictability. It is about presence, attention, and resonance. When you fall easily, you are not weak, you are awake. You are attuned to the energies of life, sensitive to the subtleties of emotion, capable of perceiving beauty and authenticity where others may overlook it. And in this attunement, you begin to cultivate discernment, not to dampen your feelings, but to channel them wisely. You notice the difference. between fleeting attraction and meaningful resonance, between infatuation and authentic connection, and you learn to honor both without being consumed. The process teaches you about the balance between openness and self-protection. You recognize that vulnerability is a strength, not a weakness, but that it must be accompanied by awareness, reflection, and boundaries. You begin to observe your emotional patterns, your instincts, your impulses, and your tendencies, seeing clearly how they shape the way you relate to others. And through this observation, you gain insight into your own capacity for patience, empathy, and resilience. You start to understand that love is a mirror, reflecting back your own qualities, your desires, your fears, and your values. When you fall easily, the intensity of emotion brings clarity. It illuminates what truly matters to you, what aligns with your heart, and what does not. It teaches you about authenticity, about the courage to engage fully with life, and about the importance of honoring both your feelings and the feelings of others. You begin to appreciate the impermanence and unpredictability of connection. Even when attraction arrives with immediacy, it cannot dictate outcomes. Love is dynamic, responsive, and evolving. By falling easily, you learn to embrace uncertainty with grace, to navigate ambiguity with curiosity, and to engage with another person without the illusion of control. In this engagement, you cultivate presence, the ability to be fully attuned to the moment, to the other person, and to the subtle interplay of emotion and thought. Presence allows you to experience the depth of connection without being overwhelmed by it, to appreciate the richness of intimacy without sacrificing your own integrity, and to respond to love with both passion and discernment. You also come to understand the interplay between joy and fear. When love arrives easily, there is exhilaration, excitement, and possibility, but there is also vulnerability, doubt, and the potential for disappointment. And it is precisely in holding these dualities that you discover the essence of true strength. You learn that courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to move forward despite it, to remain open even when outcomes are uncertain, and to honor both your heart and your mind in the choices you make. Through this process, you develop a heightened sense of empathy and connection. Falling easily teaches you to recognize the humanity in others, to perceive their vulnerabilities, strengths, and intentions with clarity, and to respond with compassion and understanding. You begin to see that meaningful connection requires reciprocity, attentiveness, and mutual respect, and that the depth of any relationship is measured not by the speed of attachment, but by the care, presence, and integrity with which it is nurtured. There is also a lesson in self-reliance. While love is relational, it is not the totality of your identity. Falling easily invites reflection on your own boundaries, needs, and values. You learn to maintain equilibrium, to hold space for your own growth, and to approach intimacy from a position of wholeness rather than dependency. You recognize that your capacity for deep attachment is enhanced, not diminished, when you cultivate awareness of yourself as an individual with agency, purpose, and resilience. And in this awareness, you also learn the subtle art of timing. Love, intensity, and connection may arrive quickly, but the unfolding of meaning, trust, and depth is gradual. You learn to honor the natural rhythms of relationship, to pace your engagement with intention, and to nurture a sense of stability and trust that can endure beyond initial attraction. You begin to appreciate the transformative potential of love. Falling easily is not merely an emotional experience. It is a catalyst for growth, reflection, and expansion. It reveals your capacity for empathy, your courage to be vulnerable, your ability to navigate uncertainty, and your willingness to engage with life fully. Through this process, you cultivate resilience, insight, and wisdom that extend beyond romance into every dimension of human interaction. You also come to understand the significance of authenticity. When you fall quickly, your feelings are raw, immediate, and unfiltered. You are confronted with the truth of your own heart, its desires, its fears, its values, and its capacity for connection. And by embracing this authenticity, you learn to act with integrity, to communicate openly, and to navigate relationships with honesty and care. Furthermore, you recognize that love is expansive, inclusive, and generative. It is not about possession, limitation, or control. It is about responsiveness, attentiveness, and engagement. Falling easily encourages you to be fully present, to honor the shared humanity of others, and to cultivate a sense of connection that is deep, meaningful, and transformative. You see, that intensity of feeling is not something to suppress, but something to understand, channel, and integrate. You develop the capacity to navigate desire and restraint, passion and clarity, spontaneity and reflection all at once. And in this integration, you find balance, a balance that allows you to experience love fully while maintaining your own sense of self, perspective, and purpose. You begin to see the interplay of courage, vulnerability, and wisdom as the foundation of true strength and love. To fall easily is to engage with life fully, to embrace connection without fear, and to respond to your own heart with respect and awareness. And as you cultivate this balance, you also cultivate resilience, the ability to navigate disappointment, uncertainty, and change without losing your own equilibrium, the capacity to remain open and engaged even when circumstances shift, and the insight to approach intimacy with both presence and intentionality. Ultimately, you recognize that true strength is not about control or suppression of emotion. It is about awareness, discernment, and authentic engagement. Falling quickly is not a liability. It is a testament to your vitality, your openness, your courage, and your readiness to experience life deeply. It teaches you about self-awareness, presence, empathy, patience, and integrity. It reminds you that love is dynamic, unpredictable, and transformative, and that your response to it defines not only the quality of your relationships, but also the depth of your own growth, understanding, and fulfillment. And in embracing this understanding fully, you cultivate the ability to navigate intimacy with authenticity, to engage with life with courage, and to approach connection with both openness and wisdom, knowing that true love, in its most profound form, is not defined by speed, ease, or intensity alone, but by the conscious, deliberate, and compassionate way in which it is experienced, nurtured, and integrated into the fabric of your life.